And we are live. We are live here, live across YouTube and on Rumble 2, talking James Bond, 007 himself. I'm not going to do the intro music. I'm not going to even attempt to do that. Have you got a dendel in you, Rabbi?
Oh, I do. It's constantly going in my head. Right. Da 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 da. Yeah, really. It's especially when I have a very good bowel movement. Right, I'm like really going for it, pushing, and then finally, it breaks out like ba da da. You know what it's like? It's exactly like when Roger Moore goes off the cliff in Smile Loves Me, and then he with the skis off, and it opens, the parachute opens up with the Union Jack. Right, that's how I feel. That's what it's like being old. That's what I feel like when I have a successful bowel movement.
So if you time it right with the fall on water, you can get a bit crescendo.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose I'll be more GoldenHour. Right, I
don't know. Well, if you notice, I've called this one, this sort of pilot Bond talk that we're having, I've called it GoldenHour because we're first going to go for an hour.
Better than Golden Shower.
Well, I knew, because I know that your brand is very risque, so I thought he's going to like that.
That has been commented on. That is correct.
So who knows how many Bonds, how many movies, whatever we're going to cover for the next however long. Nice casual conversation, live streamed out there to you on Rumble and on YouTube too. Join in if you like, if you've got something to say about all the stuff that we're going to say, and maybe you can keep us back on track or back on the slopes. If you're Roger Moore, they're going downhill. He's giving it some of that as we get motoring. But before we do that, let's have a quick blast of him.
Dad, that man's eating a fork. Now he's eating a plate. Now he's going to have 3 shredded wheat.
Now, don't tell stories.
No, 2's quite enough for me, thank you.
With 100% whole wheat nourishment packed into shredded wheat, who can eat more than 2?
Okay, so it's either the wrong file in the right office or the right office and the wrong... We'll work it out between ourselves, Rabbi, won't we?
Indeed. By the way, I was just going to say, when you had the commercial with Jaws, Jaws is a character who had the weirdest, and I would say vaguely most kinky character arc that you can imagine. Like, he gave up being an international assassin because there was a tiny girl on the on Drax's space station that he felt madly in love with, and she was tiny in comparison to him. It was so weird, right? I remember when I was a kid, when they came out, I'm like, well, that's weird. That's a strange couple I wouldn't expect.
I've never thought about it to that extent. I mean, when you see them next one another now, if you look back at old pictures of those movies, you do. Yeah, I suppose you do wonder what was going on there. So yes, James Bond, everybody, everything 007, the movies and the books and the soundtracks and everything else. I have wondered. I've wanted to talk about James Bond for a while, Rabbi, and we've been speaking about it between ourselves, haven't we? We could do James Bond. We could talk about James Bond, but I've always had this kind of imposter syndrome thing when it comes to James Bond. Firstly, I've never once been skiing in the French Alps.
Well, neither have I.
Not once. I've only ever read 2 James Bond books.
I don't think I've read 2. I think I've read Casino Royale. Take that back.
So I've read Casino Royale and The Man with the Golden Gun. Okay, that's 2 books out of the 14, and I don't own one of those $8,000 watches or anything like that. I haven't got any of those luxury.
Okay, well, that's why you can be a James Bond fan, because the function of James Bond, I think why it became so culturally important, was it vicariously gave you experiences that you wouldn't be able to have. Right, it was a travel log. You used to go to different countries. This was before there was cheap air travel, right? And that's one of the reasons people really loved it, right? Because you got to see other countries and other cultures without, go and have some pie and mash afterwards, and a couple of pies. But yeah, no, the whole thing about James Bond, it's all was a masculine fantasy. No, I was not even masculine. I was very feminine as well. Fantasy wish fulfillment. No, like he's good at everything. Right?
Aspirational stuff at a time where in Britain the package holiday was really starting to boom.
Right. Okay. And I think that fundamentally changed that in the 70s, right? That was the whole Freddie Laker era, right? That's when it really started to take off. And you can see Bond kind of changed a little bit with that, right? In that, like the foreign locations became somewhat less important. And also by that time they've been through pretty much, they've done everywhere. Now they'll go to places like Iceland, right? Things that aren't that exciting because everybody can go everywhere and see everything. But then what was it? I think when the package holiday boom really happened, they went from Moonraker, right? They went from Moonraker, very, very James Bond, very, very Star Wars influence, right? And the next one was not A View to a Kill.
For Your Eyes Only.
For Your Eyes Only, which was one of my favorite Roger Moore ones, right? It was one of the most lowest key Roger Moore ones. I do like how he destroyed the ATAC computer at the end.
We're going to regularly have to remind one another what came after what, aren't we? As best we can.
Yeah,
Fortunately, we have an army of graphics to hand to aid our ailing minds and people out there on Rumble and YouTube too to sort of chip in as well. I don't doubt for a moment we'll buzz you in whenever's necessary, I suppose, as we're getting along. So I've always wanted to talk about this. I think that when it comes to sort of culturally important film series, there is none more important, certainly to British movie goers, than James Bond. I think that in many respects he represents us in the same way you were saying, sort of culturally abroad as well.
Right, yeah, I think so. It's interesting. The reason Indiana Jones happened was apparently because, what was it? Steven Spielberg really wanted to direct a James Bond movie. And then this was while they were making Star Wars. Well, I think he was making Empire Strikes Back at the time, George Lucas. And he said, wait a minute, I got something for you that is going to be way better, right? This character, Indiana Jones, and that's how he ended up. That's how the Indiana Jones series happened, which I think is somewhat comparable to Bond culturally, although it didn't have the same legs as Bond. Like Bond is is one of the few, I think Doctor Who as well, one of the few things that can change its lead actor seamlessly, right? And it doesn't really matter. I'm so glad they didn't try and say he had a face change operation in Majesty's Secret Service.
Do you think it's something to do with the silhouettes? Because Sherlock Holmes is the same. When I picture Sherlock Holmes in my head, I always see that sort of cameo with the cutout shape of the deerstalker, the profile of his face, and the pipe. I never really see an actual actor.
Well, they leaned into that when they did the trailers for GoldenEye, right? You had Bond in silhouette, right? And he's there's a title or something, and he takes out his gun and he shoots it, and it turns the word into 007, and then he walks out of the shadows, and he's going, "You're expecting?" It was Pierce Brosnan, right? So you're expecting somebody else, right? And that really worked. But yeah, no, that silhouette is vital and iconic.
That was a crucial moment, really, because in the 2 or 3 years up to that, we'd had the fallout of the Die Hard, the initial wave of Die Hard movies had been really, really popular. Arnold Schwarzenegger had made True Lies. And I remember this big conversation about, there couldn't possibly be room for Bond. Now we have all these other things. Now we've got John McClane. We've got Arnie, who's wearing a tux, and he's twice the size of James Bond, killing twice as many bad uns, and all this kind of thing. And then Pierce Brosnan sort of effortlessly just glides across the studio in that teaser trailer and simply takes out the gun, and you get the crash of the music, don't you? And it's like, honestly, okay, we do need Bond.
he was really born to play that role. I mean, more so I think than Sean Connery. Like Sean Connery was a bit of canny casting, and I think Roger Moore was very he was the right person at the right time. But Pierce Brosnan was just destined to be Bond from the moment he was born, I think. And it's kind of telling that I think one of the biggest things that Bond fans want now is an old Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan, right? I think that'd be, especially the recent work he's done with Mobland and Murder. What's it called? Thursday Murder Club.
Working extensively with people like Guy Ritchie and just being culturally relevant again.
Oh, a Guy Ritchie, a Guy Ritchie old Bond movie starring Pierce Brosnan. I would love that. That would be awesome.
It is strange how the conversation has got back round to that. When I think that obviously the people who now own the rights to Bond, there's something that's going to be ongoing. Amazon, MGM Studios would probably rather we be talking about what Stephen Knight and Denis Villeneuve are cooking up.
Well, tell us
the
casting.
James Bond returns.
Tell us the casting, and then that's what the conversation will move to. Right? It's because we're living in a vacuum.
Well, you asked me about this. Well, you asked me about this a few days ago. Sort of, well, when we know the casting, then we'll know whether we can get excited or not. I think that the general public absolutely feel that way. I think movie fans and Bond fans are kind of happier to see it all cook and coalesce. I think we've got Stephen Knight recently said we're finishing the script first, and then we'll decide on our actor. But we know that people are auditioning, that they have. It's not literally wide open, that it could be one of, I think they've got it down to like a dozen actors or something, and they will pick from within that pool of their current favourites who will best match the script. I think that's what Stephen Knight is suggesting, but whether there's any truth in that or not, they can tell us anything they like.
Everything they've announced for this new Bond has been perfect, right? Denis Villeneuve and Stephen Knight are the perfect people to do Bond, right? You mentioned True Lies earlier. And I don't think there's any Bond fan who could have watched True Lies and went, "Oh man, I wish James Cameron did a Bond movie," right? Even though, you can say the same thing about what's his name? He's doing the Odyssey right now. Does the
Christopher Nolan?
Christopher Nolan, right? He did Inception, which was essentially a Bond movie. It is like
for Warner Brothers, was that about 12 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah, about 15 years ago now. But there was a lot of Bond-esque tropes, like the bit where they're in the snowy mountain thing, the high stuff, all and the travelogue, like the going from all around the world. It felt very Bondish to me. So it
did to me too. It was an ensemble cast, wasn't it? Whereas obviously the Bond movies, it's sort of one guy with various hangers-on. So for anybody who's sort of late to the party with this, it's been some time. I think this was last March they announced Amazon MGM Studios sets Denis Villeneuve as director of the next James Bond film with Amy. It's been all that time now, well over 6 months. Amy Pascoe is one of two producers. I can't remember the name of the other guy, but it's the other guy who's doing all of the talking now.
The other guy, David Heyman, I think, is it?
That's his name. Yeah, he's got a far better track record.
He does.
The Paddington movies,
Harry Potter. He knows how to bring Britishness to an international market.
We do have this quote from the director before. Now he's going to go off and make Dune 3 first, as I understand it, but his mind seems very much on Bond. He said, on getting the gig, some of my earliest movie-going memories are connected to 007. I grew up watching James Bond films with my father ever since Dr. No with Sean Connery. I'm a die-hard Bond fan. To me, he's sacred territory. I intend to honour the tradition and open the path for many new missions to come. This is a massive responsibility, but also incredibly exciting for me and a huge honour. Many new missions to come. This is what we want to hear, isn't it, Rabbi?
Yeah, absolutely. But the trouble is, we've heard people say exactly what we wanted to hear before, and they've all been lying all the time. I just hope he's not lying. I hope it's like, I hope we don't have a trans gay Bond, played by a disabled person from, Nigeria.
No box ticking bollocks, no silliness, no subverting the source material.
No, lean into it. Exactly. Yeah. Which is what GoldenEye did, right? That's what saved Bond, right? Because they were getting a bit like, Bond should be a bit more cuddly-feely, a bit more less misogynistic and nicer, right? With the Timothy Dalton Bonds. And then they lean right back into the very traditional Bond with Brosnan, and that's what saved it. I mean, probably the damn bungee jump is what really saved Bond, right? Although, question for you, right? GoldenEye, he does that incredible bungee jump at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end, when they're escaping, he's on top of a mountain. And he's running off from the plane, right? And it goes off from the side.
Yeah.
Which is the stupidest thing. I loved it. Oh man, did I love that. But how did that happen? Like, what happened? Is there a little route from the dam, to go up an elevator to the top of the mountain where the research station is?
I think those are the things we're not meant to think about.
Exactly. If Bond's a secret agent, why does he have a big Union Jack parachute? That would be a bit of a giveaway.
I've got one, haven't you?
No, I do not.
You've got one?
I do not have one. By the way, the favorite moment from that opening from The Spy Who Loved Me is not the parachute jump. It's just before it starts when he's leaving the chalet, and whoever he's with, the woman says, "But James, I need you," right? And he puts on his big 80s goggles, right, wearing a giant yellow suit. Says, "So does England, my dear." Something like that.
Moment after moment after moment.
It is. I honestly, they're all great. There's so many great moments. That's why I think, what's the name? Even though they only gave him, 1 or 2 movies, John Cleese replacing Desmond Llewellyn as That's the type you want to lean into, right? Well, I gotta say, GoldenEye, probably my favorite Q scene ever. Where they did that in the 70s when you saw all the Q division, when all the gadgets, right? At the end, he picks up the big sandwich and don't touch that. It's my lunch. Also, he had a great ending line, right? Where he, what was it? It was in one of the Brosnan ones where he's the one with the boat. There's always have an escape route plan or something like that. But I can't believe I know all this off the top of my head. None of this was planned, okay? None of this was planned. We're just talking what?
Well, I'm full of these sort of references as well. Sometimes I get which film they're from mixed up, and even sort of henchmen and villains. I haven't got this sort of encyclopedic knowledge, and yet I've always had Bond on physical media. I used to own them all on VHS. In fact, I've bought them twice on VHS. When I first bought a DVD player, I bought them all. The very first films I bought were Bond films. I bought Dr. No and The World Is Not Enough, which was the current Bond film at the time.
Right.
In a deal. I've still got those same DVDs now. I've never upgraded. I've still got those that I bought 25 years ago. And the books, I did used to have them all, but I only read the 2. I'm trying to... Now, I picked this up from a car boot sale at the weekend. So this is the From Russia with Love paperback. Big chunky paperback with large print. as I get older. It's a nice picture. So I'm going to try and get them all again and maybe go again at reading them. I thought I'd go with this, but I've been favouring audiobooks lately for one reason or another. So I'll probably end up reverting. But if I've got the books on the shelf, maybe people will treat me a bit more seriously.
On Audible? They're probably all on Audible.
Yeah, there's several. In fact, I think they're about to record brand new versions of them with a new selection of actors, because there's been a certain set of books, of audiobooks in play for about 12, 13 years, with people like Chiwetel Ejiofor, David Tennant, Rosamund Pike, a set of actors and actresses who were very popular at that time, and now they're doing them again with people who are a little more relevant now, sort of more new, more exciting. But people like Toby Stephens. So I have seen a
breakdown.
Toby
Stephens is when Big Finish, if nobody knows what Big Finish is, to radio plays. They really wanted the Bond license to do their own Bond series, and Toby Stephens is who they wanted to cast as Bond.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I do like to keep an eye on the Bond news. So whilst all that stuff is cooking with the film, whenever it is we're going to get it, I think it's going to be some way off. I like to observe those little dates in the Bond calendar. And I saw that, for us to get together for this conversation about Bond, we'll see where this goes. But looking at these little dates, like yesterday, I thought this could be a sign that we could be on the right path, because yesterday was the anniversary. It was when is this? This is the 71st anniversary of the very first screen adaptation of James Bond. So it was broadcast on the 21st of October, 1954. It was broadcast live on CBS television in the US, their adaptation of Casino Royale.
Was he English or American in that?
He was American, and they sort of adjusted his name as well from James Bond to Jimmy Bond.
Right.
Yeah, it starred Barry Nelson as James Bond with Linda Christian and Peter Lorre from Casablanca as part of this climax. You couldn't write it, could you? Strand of 1 hour teleplays there.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen that, but it still exists, right?
Yeah, it's up on YouTube to watch in full, believe it or not.
I have to check it out. I'd be really intrigued to see it.
Yeah, it says here that CBS bought the rights to Casino Royale, which had only been published the previous year. So they bought the rights for $1,000, and then they mounted this pretty much as quickly as they can. It was broadcast live, and yeah, it starred Barry Nelson. So maybe we could review this. If I've never seen it and you've never seen it.
I honestly, it's not something that I would run to. I'll do it if we're doing it, but it's not something that I would run to do, because to me, it's just that's like proto Bond. It's like the Woody Allen Casino Royale. It's okay, but I prefer James Bond to that. I mean, question is, where do you put Never Say Never Again? I think I would call that real Bond.
See, for me, or the Never Say Never Again, which is obviously about as mainstream as it can get, and Casino Royale, they're kind of like second tier things. I've only ever seen that. I've never seen Casino Royale with David Niven. Never seen it.
It's really weird.
I've seen Never Say Never Again like 3 or 4 times, but not for years and years and years. And I've never even seen this. So for me, it's all about those Eon movies, and anything else I've never been particularly interested in. But maybe I should watch this.
I honestly, I would read the books before I would watch. I'm more interested in what the books are like. Although, I wish somebody would do a very book accurate adaptations of the novels, either as audio or a TV production. I think again, this is the sort of thing Amazon should be really leaning into, right? Because there's so many things you could do with Bond right now, but I think they're smart to try and right the ship first before exploring anything else. But they could totally do a prestige mini-series of Bond set in the 50s, right? And because the problem, the reason why Big Finish couldn't get the rights is because the Broccoli's, I believe, were very nervous about people becoming confused between the different. I'm like, no one's going to be confused. no one's going to go. Wait, I don't understand. Is this James Bond and that James Bond? No one's going to be confused.
Not now. Not now. We've got like 3 actors playing Batman at the same time on various different media.
Exactly. But people understand multiverse, and it's okay. They don't need to worry about it.
I know that in gaming, Bond is particularly massive, isn't it? Or at least has been for the last 30 years since that GoldenHour game.
I have never seen a good Bond game. I got James Bond Legends, and I was like, "Oh, this is awful." And it was really weird. It was set through in different throughout the Bond canon, right? But it only had Daniel Craig's voice.
Oh, okay.
So it's a reenactment of GoldenEye with Daniel Craig talking through it, and it was just like it made no. What they should have done is you should have done a really lean into it and have a Sean Connery do the voice for the Connery ones and so on.
Are you a gamer as well then? I didn't know that.
Really?
I know you're a big reader. You read a lot more than I do.
Do I? I mean, that's because I'm offline on Saturdays. And also when I was in rabbinic seminary, right? Yeah. I didn't have a TV for a few years, so I did a lot. I did most of my reading then.
But you've remembered it all since.
I did, yes. That's when I read the Doom books.
It's also, now get this will make you feel old. It did me. I had to stop and think when I saw this. It was 20 years ago last week when they announced that Daniel Craig had been cast as the 6th actor to play James Bond.
Tell you, fandom was not happy with that. I think it worked very well, But I understand why. Like everybody wanted Clive Owen at the time, as I recall.
Yeah. People, in fact, people assumed it would be him. It was one of those things they took it as given. And so when Daniel Craig sort of walks up with his blonde hair, they hit the roof.
so do you think they should have dyed his hair black for it?
No.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I like the Craig Bonds kind of exist in their own little bubble, though, don't they? You have a beginning, middle, and end. Actually, you have a beginning, end, and end, and another end.
Yeah. No, I'm glad they didn't do that. I mean, this is famously, I keep boasting about this because it's the only time I've ever predicted any piece of casting ever. I saw Layer Cake in 2004, starring Daniel Craig. That was directed by Matthew Vaughn. And I saw it with my eldest son and my brother. And I said, God, that guy would be a fantastic James Bond. But they never cast
him. It was Layer Cake that got him the role, I believe.
Yeah. I thought they'll never cast him because he hasn't got the right look. And you look back through the various other casting announcements. I mean, the Pierce Brosnan thing, we all know the story behind that. He's like, he got it and then he had to give it up. And then eventually it came his way. The Timothy Dalton thing, that was big news as well. But people didn't really know who he was. It's the guy from this. I remember him in that. So, the Daniel Craig one, though, I mean, they didn't like it because they'd never heard of him, and they didn't like it because he didn't look remotely like how James Bond was meant to look.
Blonde haired and blue eyed. I understand why people were. With an actor of lesser talent, it wouldn't have worked. But I think it really worked because he's just such a good actor. Right, he can really, really bring it, and I think he really bought it for his series. Although again, how many great Daniel Craig Bonds were there? You could say GoldenEye, not GoldenEye. I mean, you could say his first one,
Casino Royale,
and that what a great villain there, Le Chiffre. What's his name? Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
What's his name? Quantum of Solace was meh. And then Skyfall, right? And there's nothing else really touched those ones.
If I'm honest, if I'm honest, although I do like all of the Daniel Craig James Bond films for the majority, I do like them all. If I'm being brutally honest, there's only Casino Royale and Skyfall that are kind of proper top tier and had that massive sort of cultural impact where everybody was talking about them in the same way they would be about, I don't know, insert whichever name of whichever film is the big film in any given year across any genre, whether it's sort of Wicked or Frozen or anything like that. Skyfall and Casino Royale, they seemed perfectly judged, perfectly timed, and it did appear like everybody was going to see them and raving about them. I slightly prefer...
They were good fun movies. Everybody enjoyed them.
They were, but I slightly prefer Spectre to Skyfall. I don't think that makes me an outlier.
Really? Spectre, I thought had a great pre-title sequence, and then it was just turgid. Oh my god, I was so bored during that movie.
It was I
was really excited for David, Batista or whatever his name is, to be the henchman, and he was really naff.
Yeah, he wasn't up so much, was he?
It had exactly the same plot as Austin Powers 3. So
did it?
It really did, beat for beat. It was Austin Powers 3. All right.
I don't remember that.
It's all about his father. In Austin Powers 3, it was Michael Caine was Austin Powers' father.
Yeah.
But it's all about. And again, what really made me crazy about that is it was so much great casting in it. I loved. What's his name as the villain, and he was really, really dull as it.
From Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah. Christoph Waltz was in Inglourious Bastards.
Right.
Oh yeah, of course, and then Django Unchained. And he's great. He's great in most things. I just think it was a very flatly written script. It was, funnily enough, Bond movies have been trying to do the same thing in the script for a lot of time, right? You've had Die Another Day, which is Bond was older, over the hill and washed up, and then they did basically the same thing in Skyfall, and then they were kind of doing the same thing in Die Another Day as well. Not Die Another.
Mate, haven't you been listening to me for years? I've been saying it. There are only three James Bond stories. Okay, Mad Scientist,
That's right.
Femme Fatale.
Femme Fatale.
Bond goes rogue. Only 3.
I like Bond goes rogue the best, right? Well,
they tell them in rotation.
We haven't had a good mad scientist for a while. I think the best of the mad scientists is still Moonraker.
Oh, I think the results are really going to vary there. I'd say.
What other mad scientists do we have?
Goldfinger.
Stromberg was pretty good in the. I don't know. Who was more bonkers? See, Stromberg, was he a scientist or was he an industrialist? I don't know.
It's the easiest thing in the world to get wrong, of course. In one respect, don't get Bond wrong, Amazon. Don't get Bond wrong. It's the easiest thing in the world to get wrong. But when they get it right, my God, do they get it right? And we all get that fever, don't we? Of like you described, like Roger Moore in the parachute, right onto the ski slope after he's just sort of chucked one up some sort. It's all absolute magic.
It's just pure wish fulfillment fantasy. And it's fabulous. It's glorious, right? It's and honestly, thank God they haven't made a Bond movie in in the last several years, because I mean, I think the last one they made, I am convinced beyond convinced that what's the name, Lashana Lynch. Well, it was supposed to end with a Lashana Lynch gun barrel sequence.
And you know that I think that's bullshit. We argue about that.
We argue about it all the time. I would love to find out. I would love to know. I'd love to know if that last Indiana Jones movie was going to have Phoebe Waller-Bridge replace him in time. I would love to know all these things. But whoever there are hackers out there, right? Instead of hacking governments or hack Sony or Disney or something. I want to know the truth about that stuff. That's way more interesting than anything else.
Help us out with that, please. YouTube and Rumble. If anybody's got the right skill set to take on that mission, we would greatly appreciate it. Save us arguing about it for the next 5 years. But this is part of the magic of Bond. Of course, it brings people together, and it's brought us together with a bunch of people there watching on YouTube and Rumble. I think we should have a quick look and see what they've got to say after you've had another one of these. Yes, these. How about this one?
Ours, as you know, is not a perfect world. May I? That's why it's so refreshing when something really perfect comes along. Like Diet Coke. Tastes great straight or on the rocks. Yet it's just 1 calorie. That's why Diet Coke is the perfect soft drink. For an imperfect world.
Just for the taste of it. Diet Coke.
Okay, how's it going so far?
That was a great ad. I remember. I forgot about that ad. Was that after he got the role? Or was it before? It was in his Remington Steele days. Because he seemed a lot slimmer then.
Yeah, I think it could have been slightly before. I think it could have been off the back of Remington Steele, but when he was sort of Bond in waiting and the rights all up in the air, nobody was really Bond for a little while. We've bonded with people, I think, out there watching this. Let's see what they've got to say. We've got some comments, including this from the Zero Room. This is new. More was my Bond. What, this more? Got more? More of more. Hi there.
My fantasy casting for a next Bond would be Tom Hiddleston, because I really think he could do the suave, charming side that we haven't really seen since Roger Moore.
Yeah, I fear that Tom Hiddleston is beginning to age out. He'd have been perfect.
After The Agent, that's true.
If you've seen The Night Manager, he was amazing in that. He can do the physical stuff as well. You know, when he wants to give somebody a kick in the spuds, that would definitely be within his remit. Yeah. We've got hello everyone from Adrian James, and Rose Kirby is watching on YouTube and says there is a golden egg from the fabulous Fabergé egg collection in the James Bond film. So I think Rose is talking about Octopussy.
Oh, that's where it was, where Bond switches it with nobody noticing.
Yeah.
Could I view the egg, please?
Funnily enough, Jethrick says I've got Octopussy on TV at the moment. I'm going to have to pause it and watch it later. So you've paused the real Bond to listen to our nonsense. That's a privilege indeed.
Listen, I'm not going to encourage you to do drugs, but if you take a whole bunch of acid and watch Octopussy, It's a good evening. That's all I'm going to say.
This, yeah. Yep. I don't think he's going to co-sign on that.
No, I don't think so. I don't do trust kids. It's bad for you.
Various opinions about the various different James Bonds, of course. Rose Kirby says, hey, 007 is no longer a secret agent. With all the 25 movies, he's become known worldwide. Yeah, and as you said, I mean, how secret is a secret agent going to be if he's going to advertise his allegiance wherever he goes, which some Bonds have done that more than others, but it's all part of the fun.
All right, but again, it's the looking at the technical realities, whatever. Nitpicking Bond movies is a bad idea, right? Because there's a lot to nitpick and a lot that doesn't. Who cares? It's like nitpicking a roller coaster ride. You know, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
They are meant to be entertaining. Yeah. Duncan the Funky Evans makes this very brave, bold statement. The only problem I find with Brosnan was that they tried to make him half Connery, half Moore.
I think that's what that was his plan.
I think that was the entire plan. Yeah. And what you see, Duncan, as a problem was actually the reason why Brosnan was so successful, why he was the right man at the right time. It worked.
Right, because again, they really needed to lean into the DNA of Bond for GoldenEye. Right? Because it was off. It was like 7 years since you saw the last movie. Which means, by the way, the third Dalton one is going to be called Property of a Lady, which again that would be a great title for the Pierce Brosnan old Bond movie, which I fantasize they should make. Right, that'd be a great title for that one.
We had 30th anniversary of GoldenEye this year. In fact, it's out back in cinemas in Britain. Special screenings here and there. I think they may have remastered it again too. Because
you can see the state of current media that they are just re-releasing stuff like crazy right now, because that's things that people are going to go and enjoy. Generally speaking, I find things made before 2016, 2017 to be massively higher quality than things made today. Right, I think that we've had like 8 years of a real nosedive in quality and entertainment. I was telling you before we came on, I started rewatching Battlestar Galactica last night. I haven't seen it for like 10 years, and I was just blown away at how good it was, because it's not current day. That was back in an era where they had character and tension and stuff like that, where they not so much today.
Misty-eyed past. Yeah. I think in many respects we're all better off for Bond having sort of sat out by default the last few years. It's legal, and this does happen with Bond every 20, 30 years. Ownership, somebody stakes their claim to ownership, or studios themselves get bought out, they change hands, and Bond, like any other IP, kind of falls between the gaps in all of that, and we all have to sit and wait that little bit long. You know, I think that Rose is in the live chat saying, why has it been so long since the last movie? And this is precisely why. It's a changing of the guard, a changing of the times. And in this instance, I agree with the rabbi. I think that it's worked out very much in Bond's favour, without being solid by the last few years. And a cultural revolution which has damaged pretty much everything else, compromised everything else to its very, very core. Duncan says about the new audiobooks, they're going to be censored because some language in the Fleming books is very un-PC.
Oh, yeah, that much I know. And if you ever read Alan Moore's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
what they haven't done, to my knowledge, is they haven't gone back to these books in the way that other books have, Roald Dahl's books. They haven't had the sensitivity readers go into these.
Oh, thank God.
That's not happened with the Bond books, and I can't see any reason why Penguin, if they haven't done anything to the print editions, why would they do that to the audiobooks? It's not something that's been announced, so I wouldn't assume, Duncan, that this is happening with literally everything, because we've got no cause to believe that in the case of Bond. It's not happened in print, so I don't see why it would happen in the audiobooks. Some people all over the world just waking up. Of course, we're straddling the time zones in the way that the average Bond film does. When it moves location, so are we, Rabbi.
Yes. I thought you were going to move location to a different topic. I thought that was a segue.
No, that's not one of my segues. You're all right. We're sticking with these for the time being. A Bond, Jimmy Bond. Nah, says Boomer.
Oh yeah, so I was just saying in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, in the final volume of it, James, but the literary James Bond is the main villain, and he's and also in the Black Dossier, right? It's if you like a bit of Bond, that's very good in my humble opinion.
The James Bond visual archive on YouTube has the Barry Nelson Casino Royale. Yeah, it's up in various states. So some people have sort of remastered it into HD. There's only so much you can do with something that was made 70 odd years ago for television. So it exists in various states. But I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna watch it. And Funky says, I think that original Casino Royale is missing a few minutes at the end. Again, I couldn't possibly say. I'll let you know when I watch it. We've stirred some memories too about the James Bond thing. Too blonde to be Bond. That was the headline in the tabloids and things like that, wasn't it? James Blonde.
Do you remember the poster that the angry fandom made based on Thunderball with him in the gyrocopter looking boss-eyed? It said, "You'll only play him once."
No.
Was it? Yeah. Was the gyrocopter in You Only Live Twice?
Yes.
I can't remember. No, so it was a spoof of that one. Yeah, so
it definitely was. We've got some more comments here. Film after film after film after film. Lots of people have their favorite.
Most disappointing thing about the Daniel Craig announcement was they wanted to have him on a speedboat in the Thames, right, to unveil him, and because of health and safety, you had to wear this massive life jacket as well, and it just looked so lame, right? You like Bond wouldn't wear that life jacket. It really was. Especially, I think a couple of movies earlier, you had that Q boat going down the Thames.
Oh yeah, which all worked perfectly fine. Davey Boy 96 UK says, I grew up during the Brosnan era. Apart from the two Craig films, I've never found him interesting to watch. I'll always be a Dalton defender. I know it's a boring answer, but I genuinely love all of them. I think they've picked the right men at the right time.
Do you think, by the way, George Lazenby was purposely sabotaged by having a really downer of an ending? Because that should have been the opening to the next movie, where his wife was killed.
I've never really looked at it that way, to tell you the truth. I've never given it any real thought.
I think the production team, the Broccoli's, hated him. He was a real diva. Apparently, they absolutely hated him. So I think they wanted it to not do that great, so they could get Sean Connery back for a movie. And he always wanted. They tried to get Timothy Dalton as well, but he felt he was too young. So that's how they.
Yeah, they tried to get him in the early 70s,
right,
before they went back to Sean Connery for Diamonds Are Forever. I think it's all in there somewhere. All of these little facts. Another vote for Tom Hiddleston, I think, here from Deep Thought 42. He was fantastic in the Night Manager.
If you ever see Diamond, next time you watch Diamond Forever, ask yourself, do you think it was in Sean Connery's contract that he got to wear his own clothes? Because he is wearing some weird stuff in that movie, and it's
very un-Bond,
very un-Bondy stuff, right? He looked more Bondy in Never Say Never Again, but I guess he was older then, so he wanted to try and pull it back.
I think I read when he was in Never Say Never Again, he was only a year older than Daniel Craig was when he made No Time to Die. I think it was about the same. He was about the same age.
It's a real shame they didn't make more in that Never Say Never Again series, because apparently Liam Neeson was lined up to play Bond.
I've heard that too. In fact, I think he may have auditioned for it. I think he's one of him and Sam Neill, the various people have auditioned.
Sam Neill's audition I've seen. There was a great moment on Breakfast TV a few years ago when Sam Neill was on, and they whipped out that audition tape from Bond, and he was so embarrassed. He was like, "Where did you find that? Oh no, that's fine. What's wrong with you, Sam? Get over it.
I don't suppose you'd think that somebody on a talk show would do that. Literally decades
They always bring
later.
out the Martin Clunes bit from Doctor Who. The was it Snake Dance?
It's a similar thing. Anything that's had that when actors have been in something when they were younger, if it's been on for like decades and decades, you get like big actors who, like John Hurt was when he was very young, was in an episode of Coronation Street, and so they would show that, and he's like, oh God, they'd show a clip from that or a still image from that, and he'd wince. It's a similar sort of thing. And we've got, everybody's got their favourites and films and things they don't like. We've got all opinions there in the live chat with our friends on YouTube and Rumble. Keep them coming. We're going to stay away from circular arguments and culture war bullshit talking points if we can, and really celebrate Bond as we look to the future and to hopefully fill in some gaps together as well. Lots of people love these adverts, so let's have another one.
Ours is not a perfect world.
Hello.
That's why Diet Coke is so refreshing. Great taste, just like calorie. It's the perfect soft drink for an imperfect world.
1 calorie, just for the taste of it. Diet Coke.
What a cracker. It would have been, believe it or not, last week as well, Rabbi, would have been Roger Moore's 98th birthday. I think that the world is a lot duller a place without Roger Moore,
Oh, I mean, okay, the biggest testimony about how much larger than life he was is that he fits seamlessly into the Spice Girls movie.
He plays like a Blofeld kind of character in that. He's like stroking a cat or something. Isn't
So I can't even remember. It's just like it was on the background. My kids were watching it. So I can't remember. I didn't study it closely, but he was great in that. But he was pure class, Roger Moore. I have to say, even though it's not my favorite Bonds, or some of them are, but like he was just such a nice, classy person. That's essentially why he got the role, because he used to hang out with the Broccolis, and they like hanging out with each other. And he's like, "Well, you can do it." So
they were family friends, and it was a case of like the last time they tried to replace Sean Connery for one reason or another, it didn't go the way that they wanted. And that's probably something we'll talk about.
Well, they went with I don't know, right? But he done what, 8 seasons?
An unknown quantity, and somebody who wasn't an actor, and wasn't really an actor. Whereas, and that wasn't anything connected, any judgment on his ability, but I think it is a slight judgment on the conduct of that talent when not in the role. Lots of silly mistakes, whereas Roger Moore, by the time he was playing James Bond, he'd been an actor for the best part of 30 years. I think he'd been contracted to an American studio, hadn't he? Lived in the States for a long time, had done television show after television show there and here in Britain. So he must have been a very reliable and attractive prospect at that time. You can't say. And of course, he was perfect for the part at the Roger Moore, the 1970s. It all blended in perfectly.
Like spending the 60s doing the same. I remember they wanted Patrick McGowan at one point. Like he was up. Was it up for the same time as Sean Connery? I can't remember. That would be
that was when it started. In fact, I think that they had McGowan very much in mind, because Danger Man was known as Secret Agent Man in the States, wasn't it? It's one of those rare instances of a British show that had managed to get a footing. I don't think it was hugely popular, but it had got a footing in the States, which is rare enough in and of itself for them to look at him seriously. I've got a quote here from Roger Moore I saw the other day on his birthday, which I'd never seen before. It said, "Some are blessed with musical ability, others with good looks. Myself, I was blessed with modesty."
Again, I love watching the documentaries that are on the Blu-rays and DVDs, and documentaries in general. Just I really like the bits where they're in between scenes and they're just like hanging out. and just being charming. He's so incredibly charming.
It's also winning and so much fun, which I think, because Roger Moore was James Bond when I was a kid, and I'd never even heard of Sean Connery. So we know what it's like when you're a kid. The time goes slower, doesn't it? And so for me, Roger Moore was James Bond for a really, really long time. I could never imagine anybody else in the part. And whilst I'm hesitant to sort of name favourites, I'm not sure I have a favourite. When I think of James Bond, we're talking about silhouettes. It's him.
Right.
It's him that I think of. I think sort of very sort of willowy and.
My favorite James Bond is whatever. Same with Doctor Who is whichever one I'm watching at the time.
I'm the same with Tarzan. I always think of Johnny Weissmuller when
Tarzan's a franchise that's due for a revamp.
Yeah, I'd love them to look. I'd love them to look at that again. I sincerely would. But yeah, when
you could do a Tarzan and a Doc Savage universe. I think they fit very nicely together.
Throw all those old pulpy characters, in the mix together.
I think that'll be. I think that'll work.
But you and I have spoken a few times now about sort of where Bond could go from here, and on screen. And I'm a pretty firm believer in the notion that it either has to be set in the 20th century, ideally in the 60s, or it should be in some sort of quasi-perhaps land, which is a blend of artifacts from anywhere between the 50s and the 1990s at the latest.
That's where they've all been for like, what was it? Casino Royale, I believe. There's a bit where Daniel Craig's driving and he has a sat nav on his phone, but that was before they came out, right? So it looked really kind of like science fiction. Yeah. And there's a lot of real science fiction going on in Bond, which puts it in a alternate reality. But it's and I guess you can have that alternate reality. Mirror whatever, but I think it's got to be set in contemporary times. Because I would like to see again. I said earlier, I would like to see like a period piece, but I don't think that's the big screen. I think that's much more would be a prestige TV.
No, show. I think you put up a strong argument there, and particularly when you think back to how Bond, in many ways, the evolution of Bond. And the stylistic choices and references that were in play. I mean, here we have got an image here of Roger Moore holding a samurai sword, or two swords, but a samurai sword, and wearing a G. So you couldn't get more of mid-70s than this, could you? And everybody apparently was kung fu fighting, according to Carl Douglas. Roger Moore, I don't think we saw him kung fu fight as such, but they were certainly leaning into that.
Which movie was this?
This was The Man with the Golden Gun.
I was going to say it was a Man with a Golden Gun.
But then again, Roger Moore was the kind of actor who was up for everything, wasn't he? I think he was up for a lark, whereas I'm not sure that some of the other ones, like, that's not why Timothy Dalton was hired, was it?
No,
to lark about.
Timothy Dalton is not up for a lark ever. Even at his most larky, though. I think, who's it? Mark Gatiss or Matthew Sweet. They described... what's the last Bond one? A View to a Kill? The last Roger Moore one, A View to a Kill?
View to a Kill, yeah.
They described, because that's got Patrick McNean as well. And they described it and said, if you watch it as they're not really spies, they're just two doddery old people who think they're spies, you get a totally different movie. It's really quite a good one.
I'm getting to the point in my life where I'm starting to relate.
Okay, the scariest thing that Bond ever did was when an aging Roger Moore got to bed with Grace Jones. I was like, really? Really, mate? You want to think twice about that? Russell Hardy couldn't take it.
Very brave thing to do. I think wasn't Roger Moore like 56, 57 when he stopped playing it? Something like
that. It was some ridiculously too old age, yes.
Fearless Roger Moore sailing into peril there by kipping with Grace Jones. That's what we're talking. It's this sort of green screen polo necked era that holds so much sort of romance for me.
Yeah, because it was a more innocent time. It was a happier time, I think, for most people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. We've got some more comments on YouTube, stimulated by this conversation, Rabbi. You'll be pleased to learn, including Mark, who adds, I've heard people say that they want Jack Lowden from Slow Horses, the Apple TV show, that is, isn't it? What's Jack Lowden as Bond, but I don't feel he has the charisma for it. I don't think I've ever seen this. I've seen a picture of him, and I think he's got the look, an interesting look, but I've never seen him act, so I can't possibly say. But I'll take your word for it, Mark.
The other guy they want is he was in Masters of the Air, not Austin Butler, who will probably be a good Felix Leiter.
I like Austin Butler. I think he's great.
I like Austin Butler as well. You know what really impressed me about Austin Butler is when I first became aware of him when he played Fade in Dune, and he was so good in that. And then he was in the show Masters of the Air, and he demonstrated acting ability, which you don't see that so much nowadays. He played a totally different character. But if you see Masters of the Air, you starred Austin Butler and this other guy. The other guy is one of the people who are up for Bond role. The one I'm most scared of is them going for what's his name, Spider-Man,
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, who has been a persistent rumor. Right, and it's completely contrary to everything else I've seen in the new production.
I think because he's coming up to the right age and he's a popular British actor.
He's not coming up to the right age. He's been another 10 years.
Well, isn't he about 28 now? He's older than you think. So I think he's coming up. To me, Bond should be about 31, 32.
I think mid-30s, but it's like Robert Pattinson playing Batman. Right, you know, when you first heard that Robert Pattinson playing Batman, you go, "Oh my God, that's a terrible idea. Why would anybody do that?" Right? And then you convince yourself, "Oh no, maybe they got a good idea. It's going to work." And you see the movie and you go, "Oh my God, Robert Pattinson Batman is the worst thing ever. That's a terrible idea." Which would be the same thing if it was Tom Holland, I think.
I think why they look at I think I don't think he's right for Bond at all. But I think that if you were to cast somebody who is 28. Between the age of 28 and 32, the beauty in that is that because Bond himself is about 37, 38, but you can get somebody of 32, 33 and get them to play it that little bit older. And also, if you pick the right actor, you can have somebody, because you want somebody to stay in that part for at least 10 years. So you want somebody who's going to age gracefully with the part. And so by the time they get to their mid-40s, they can still play it as if they were still 38, 39. And so you've got that extended window there.
Although I think something that made the Bond series stronger is when there was less time between them. Right? I think like 2 years between Bond movies, I think it's like they should really, on this next production, I think they should really be, filming 3 at once or something, but have 3 in production at once.
I think, various stages of production being scripted, but treatment stage, where are we going to go from here? I think every 2 to 3 years, 3 years, that's absolute push. Doug wants Bond to be fun again.
Yes.
Don't we all?
Yes, silly gadgets are good.
Funky says that Moore getting cast as Bond stopped a second series of The Persuaders being made, if I remember correctly. That is erroneous. You've been misinformed. ITC never made a second season of anything. You know that.
They did it, that's right. Even
was part of the con.
Did fantastically.
It was part of the fiddle that Lou Grade had got going on. They never made a second season of anything. So that's not actually true. But Doug says, I love Roger. Check him out in Crossplot. To be honest, I enjoy most of Roger Moore's movies. He's brilliant in The Cannonball Run, which I watched again a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing about Pierce Brosnan in the Thomas Crown Affair. It just felt like an extra James Bond movie, right? It really, I think that really worked well.
Graham Joy reminds us that there was a documentary released at Christmas called From Roger with Love. That's available on DVD. It was premiered, I think, on the BBC, on BBC 4. So they had it to stream for a little while on the iPlayer, but it's out on DVD and Blu-ray now. So you can get that. I've got a copy upstairs. I've not watched it yet. I've had it for a couple of months. So I'll probably save that till Christmas and get it in this time. Apparently it's very, very good. The much missed Roger Moore, who the world is a far, far duller place without him. Do you want another pearl of wisdom from the late, great Roger Moore? This one made me laugh. Yes, I'm the 4th best James Bond, said Roger Moore. Then that was,
She was gorgeous, that Bond girl. That's View to a Kill. Is it View to a Kill?
the late great Tanya Roberts in View to a Kill. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you had a lot of good bongo actually. You had her, and you had the young skater who was desperate to have sex with Roger Moore.
He could do it all. I can't quite remember. Her name.
Yeah, but he was very creaky in View to a Kill. Oh, I did like Christopher Walken as a villain. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, he was very young at the time as well, wasn't he? Young to be playing that kind of part, Walker.
Yeah, but he was really well cast. Yeah, I think he was one of the great villains.
We can go through, if we can do this, we can have themed shows, themed conversations, talk about the villains, the girls, the gadgets, the cars, everyone, as well as come back to the subject of whether we'll be able to ever decide on a favorite James Bond. I don't know, on further golden hours, but I think we've managed to kick this last one into touch. Rabbi, between us, we've done it.
It's the last hour's flown by. Like I feel like I'm in my opening 10-minute ramble. Right, it has flown by because there's so much to talk about, and I got so much love for it. That was a great moment, by the way. In what's the one? Not
For Your Eyes Only, was that one?
For Your Eyes Only, where he Roger Moore said he wanted to just throw like a pin or something into the car that would make it go over, but they said no, you need to kick it. We want you to be like mean and nasty, a meaner and nastier Bond now.
Because he's got that reputation as being like the jokey Bond, hasn't it? And that he wasn't ruthless. But then you can think of various examples where he could be, if he needed to be. This is a prime example, isn't it?
Yeah. It's he was a good actor. He was able to. He was the right guy for the job for the first half of his movies.
So Roger Moore, one of 6 actors who played James Bond in the film series. And I mean, I don't think I could decide on even a top 3 films, Rabbi. They've been with me for so long,
Well, again, that's another show. I mean, like we could do a show where we can rank them all, right? Maybe we should we will do our own list, and then the top 3 is whatever the top 3 is.
We are barely getting started here. If you want more of this, more of that, we'll straighten our tires, get the parachute on just in case, of course, and we'll get into our gear and see what happens, and where we end up.
Child's play. Totally wimpy. Whoa.
Shaken, not stirred.
Pepsi Max, full cola taste, no sugar.
Yeah, so have we got it right or have we got it wrong? We've made a doddle of the last hour or so. James Bond will return. Maybe so will we. If that's what you'd like, I think I'd like that. Whenever, however we can. So if you want more of this, if you enjoyed that, you want to get stuck in and add some comments, you know what to do. Get on your gadget, drop us a comment, and we'll get back to you, Rabbi, won't we? We'll see. We'll see.
Well, you might. I'm going to ignore you.
That's the spirit.
There you go. I'll have to be straight with you.
For England, James. For England.
For England. Yeah. When we do more shows, we should try and get the same costume as was it which Blofeld was it? One on a
with the high collars.
That's the one, right? The Austin Powers one, right? The Dr. Evil costume.
You've got a white cat, haven't you?
I do have a white cat. It was just in here right now. She was just in here.
Fair enough. More comments coming in. Fans, Sheena Easton, Christopher Walken, Roger Moore, Lynn Holly Johnson. You see, when anybody says Holly Johnson, I always think of the bloke who's the lead singer with Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I think you know that. Lots of things that you can correct us on, I've no doubt, in the future. So please get in touch. What a brilliant idea, Rabbi. I'm glad we've done this. The last hour, this golden hour, has indeed flown by, I think. But I fancy a cuppa. Do you?
I just had a coffee, so I'm pretty good.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you everybody in the live chat who's joined in with this. James Bond, I think you can probably tell it means the world to the pair of us, and we've barely scratched the surface. So who knows? Another mission, another day, for another hour. Let's see what happens, shall we? But yeah, leave us a comment, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for chipping in, Rabbi, for joining in on this mission.
Genuinely my pleasure. I mean, I really enjoyed myself.
So more to come. Maybe we'll get stuck in, all in due course. See you later. Bye-bye.